Having a purpose can be great, but serving a purpose does not promise or guarantee fulfillment or being fulfilled in life. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the definition behind those words. Purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Fulfillment is the achievement of something desired, promised, or predicted. We all work towards a different purpose, even multiple at a time. We go to school for the purpose of being educated. We seek out community, companionship, romance, and love for the purpose of intimacy, both platonically and romantically. We exercise and diet for the purpose of maintaining good health. We get a job for the purpose of paying bills and exercising our autonomy as individuals. But what happens when you don't feel fulfilled? When you're in school for a degree and not because you want to be educated? When you're engaged in community but don't have a sense of belonging? When you're getting paid well but feel like your job isn't making you happy? You end up with a superficial feeling. You end up thinking you're working towards something great, but you're doing yourself a disservice. And that leads us to today's topic. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romello. Having made several changes in my life the last few years to prioritize my happiness, a recent conversation highlighted how many people around me are working towards what they believe is their purpose in life, but they struggle to identify how it fulfills them. So I wanted to make this video to not only speak to what I think is happening to so many others, but to also show you that there is a path forward. You might think you have everything you ever wanted, but in reality, you have to be sure for your needs. And by analyzing 3 different characters, we can not only better understand how serving a purpose doesn't guarantee fulfillment and can lead to negative outcomes, but we learn how you can obtain fulfillment by achieving a purpose, therefore leading to a positive outcome. Let's start by looking at the ceaseless wheel from Adventure Time himself, the Lich.
Fall.
If you're unfamiliar with Adventure Time or who the Lich is, let me catch you up to speed. The Lich is one of the main villains of Adventure Time, the result of a catalyst comet lying dormant on Earth and awakened by the Great Mushroom War. He's an ancient cosmic being representing evil itself. Throughout the show, he's remained dedicated to his one purpose, the extinction of all life. Not only did he work towards this in his world, he wanted this across the entire multiverse. In fact, he actually achieved it in one universe. As an ancient evil, you would think achieving his goal would leave him fulfilled. Well, you'd be wrong. Eventually, in Fiona and Cake, Simon, the cured Ice King by the way, Fiona and Cake end up traveling to a universe created by the Lich who wished for the destruction of all life. Every time we've seen the Lich, he's been ready to kill on sight. He even took over the concept of death itself to achieve his goal until he was stopped. However, we get something different. He gets the opportunity to continue serving his purpose, and goes back to being dormant. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. See, we end up learning that the Lich dedicated his life to serving Golb, a godlike entity of chaos and discord. We've never seen Golb speak or give any reason behind their action. The Lich, representing evil, practically looked up to Golb. He dedicated his life to Golb, becoming the last scholar of the Chaos God. Eventually, Simon and the Lich who completed their mission had the chance to meet Golb. Well, Golb fused with Betty, Simon's love and sort of ex-girlfriend. There's a lot of Adventure Time lore. Let me know if you want to see a video covering it, especially if you're like me and caught up on the second half of the series years later. To keep us focused, Simon and the Lich meet Golb, and the Lich had nothing but anger, resentment, and confusion descend. Why did he serve this purpose? What was it for? And why did Golb never seemingly praise him or reward him for doing so? And to all that anger, resentment, and confusion, this was Golb's reaction. What? This is an amazing example of how purpose and fulfillment are not the same thing. The Lich worked towards all he ever knew and was left with rage. The process of achieving his goals was exciting. Even as a hand, he worked hard. And that can be a reflection of us as a people. Sometimes, a perceived larger or stronger power tells us the direction we need to work towards. Or we believe by going towards a specific direction, we'll earn the respect and love of our peers. You work all those overtime shifts and extra hours and you still lose the running for the higher position. You sacrifice time, money, and more to support something that doesn't come to fruition. And that can be frustrating, but we have to deal with that rage and anger. Let the Lich's actions be a reminder of that. His own frustration and anger led to his untimely end. How many of us could have avoided potential harmful outcomes if we didn't let our anger take control? But anger isn't the only emotion that can come from this. There's also sadness, and our next character represents that all too well.
Stand ready for my arrival, worm.
Conquest from Invincible is a somewhat complex one. You know how people often describe big guys as soft as a teddy bear? This ain't no teddy bear. Conquest might have a teddy bear-like side, but that's just a mask for the insane grizzly he is. Conquest is one of the surviving Viltrumites of the show Invincible that showed up specifically to rock Mark's world. Viltrumites are like Kryptonians with the early Vegeta grind set. Mark, better known as the hero, is a half Viltrumite. Long story short, his father, Omni-Man, was like a sleeper agent on Earth with the intention of having a son and taking over the planet to further expand the Viltrum Empire. They had a huge fight, faces hit trains, we got the famous "Thank Mark" scene, and he left. Upon him leaving, more and more Viltrumites come after Mark, expecting him to prepare the Earth for their takeover. Eventually, Conquest was sent to leave a message, and he more than achieved that goal. However, towards the end of this insane fight to protect the planet, we get one of the most jarring and uncomfortable scenes from superhero TV.
I am so lonely.
This scene is the flip side and counterpoint to the Lich's anger. This scene represents sadness. When your purpose doesn't fulfill you, yet you partake anyways. You end up with this artificial feeling of accomplishment. But accomplishment without true reward leads to a shallow feeling inside. The same shallow feeling that Conquest shared. And while we know this scene was here to contrast his physicality, we end up being able to connect to Conquest, a villain, in ways we never thought we could. Conquest does exactly what he is expected to do. He serves his purpose to a T, and just like the Lich, we have to ask the same question. What is the reward for achieving this purpose? Isolation from community, fear rather than praise, and an inability to physically express his emotions through tears, only through the suffering of others. However, unlike the Lich, Conquest doesn't have anger inside for the other Viltrumites. He still finds solace in violence in the act of conquering, because that's all he's ever known, and he has an inability to try something else. But while he enjoys the action itself, completing the action isn't getting him the reward he knows would fulfill him. What sticks out to me the most is these sentences here. Some days I feel so alone I could cry, but I don't. I never do. Because what would be the point? Not a single person in the entire universe would care. There was a natural conclusion to that belief of self. That level of sadness will either lead to the pain of others or your continued suffering. Conquest's example shows us one of the two major negative outcomes that working towards unfulfilling purposes does. But not all forms of purpose are bad, and not all outcomes are negative. Sometimes, searching for a glorious purpose will benefit us individually and those around us.
I know what kind of god I need to be. For you. For all of us.
I was likely one of the many people who did not expect to fall in love with Tom Hiddleston's Loki as a serious lead. However, this character showcases the other side of the road. It showcases what could be, not what is. If you aren't an MCU fan, this Loki is not the same one from the Infinity Saga. This Loki is from a timeline created from Endgame when the time heist got messed up. He ended up going outside of space-time, met Owen Wilson, met himself but not really because now he's a girl with similar but overall different perspectives, dealt with Jonathan Majors before the lawsuit, and got into some crazy timeline shenanigans. However, before this Loki's journey could be appreciated, we have to understand what was meant for Loki initially. Loki always searched for his glorious purpose, to rule over all he deemed underneath him as an all-powerful god. He was defeated in Thor 1 and Avengers, and became a recurring character similar to that of the Lich. There may have been other larger threats, but he was always there, ready to stake his claim for the top. However, this Loki was always meant to be killed at the hand of Thanos in an attempt to take the Mad Titan's life. While Loki was still a bit of a trickster, he was beginning to learn that he could do better when he serves good rather than serving his own goals. The new Loki in the TV show ended up learning about this, and it caused a considerable shift in his character. Throughout the show, we're expected to believe him when he says he wants to overthrow the TVA and rule. But by the finale, Loki made a complete character change. We saw him place his selfishness and need to win to the side to think critically about the multiverse. And while Sylvie made some almost permanent decisions, Loki still thought about others. Killing He Who Remains, a Kang variant, ended up setting in motion a plan that would ultimately reset the sacred timeline. Rather than fight a hopeless fight where no sacrifices are needed, rather than allow the sacred timeline to occur and strip those of their free will, Loki made the ultimate sacrifice play. This scene of Loki walking towards the almost destroyed branches of reality, putting them back together, and resting on his throw is a perfect way to understand purpose and fulfillment. Loki always thought his purpose was to be at a throne, ruling over others, all-powerful, the works. However, his fulfillment was found elsewhere. While the throne was always involved in his ultimate purpose, he found fulfillment in his new purpose. His purpose was never meant to rule and subjugate. Loki's purpose was to rule, giving others the opportunity to flourish due to his sacrifice. That's why I love this scene so much, because Loki knows it. That bittersweet look as he stabilizes the world tree says it all. I finally got that throne. I achieved my purpose. The symbolism here speaks volumes to me. Loki was always the trickster god, taking from others to better himself. His true calling was always meant to be a god of stories, giving others the freedom to live, love, hate, and more. And while it did take notable sacrifice, it benefited himself and those around him. And that's what fulfillment should be doing. Benefiting you, and in return, giving you the opportunity to serve others. The concept of purpose versus fulfillment has always been close to home for me. I'm still relatively young, being 27, but I've spent so much time trying to figure out what my purpose is that I can't define it anymore. I work towards what fills the heart, soul, and spirit. I went to high school for auto body, undergrad for music and sound recording, getting my master's right now in psychology. I've worked in fast food, schools, nonprofits with kids, and college students. And anytime I felt like what I was doing wasn't good, I accepted it was time to move on. In a sense, we all have to live towards that purpose. We have to work towards our own happiness. It can be exhausting, but our happiness, or lack thereof, also impacts the community around us. And I believe we all have the responsibility to model positivity for those around us. Ask yourself, will you hold the anger of the Lich? Will you weaponize the sadness of Conquest? Or will you gloriously achieve like Loki? What's good, everybody? I hope you enjoyed this video here. This one was really close to home for me. We're all trying to figure out life, forgetting it's all our first tries doing this thing. No one really has the right answer, me included. But conversations like these help make our time here just a bit easier. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to like and comment to add to the conversation. You can subscribe as well for more anime, cartoon, and gaming content. I make both fun and serious content on a variety of things, but if you could do anything, I hope you walk away feeling empowered and feeling like you can take ownership over your life. You're the best version of you because you're the only version of you. You know what's best for yourself. Push towards it. I'll see you all next time. Be sure to keep on keeping on.